my God. Oh, we have to talk about this episode. I've been looking forward to this. I'm like, I have a YouTube channel and I get to go on there and talk to somebody, anybody. Comment, please. Let's have a discourse. I want to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, season 6, episode 9. Whew. Whew. Damn. There's a lot. I have a lot to unpack here. I'm John Sark. I'm a blind film critic. MacTheMovieGuy.com if you want to go check out my website. Please click like and subscribe. This first time being here. I've recapped Handmaid's Tale for a while now, and I'm really invested in this series. I love it. I think it's a fantastic vessel for great acting, and I really hope the Emmys embrace it in their final season. I really hope. I think there's so much great work in this season, and I know to come back around to a show doesn't really seem like it's their vibe, but like, all due respect to Paradise and The Pit, you don't got what The Handmaid's Tale has got going on. You just don't. You might, but you don't, you know? Some people who keep throwing out shows like Paradise and The Pit, I'm like, please, if those shows get nominated over The Handmaid's Tale, we riot. Like, this episode is phenomenal. This episode is everything. Even though, like, I was pretty sure the stakes weren't real. I was pretty sure that the thing that they were setting up couldn't possibly happen to the extent at which it was going to happen. So, even before we started seeing the things and they started pointing out the things that were going to lead to the, yep, I knew this wasn't, but it still found a way to end with one hell of a punch, one hell of a moment of watching June just be like, oh, fuck me. Oh man. So, okay. So Handmaid's Tale. This was the episode that propelled me immediately. First of all, shout out to Hulu for actually premiering the episode with audio description instead of last episode where I had to wait days to be able to recap it. Feels like I just recapped this. If you follow my channel, it's because I did a couple days ago because I had to wait for audio description for the series. But yeah, this was day and date, so we're solid. And I immediately went on social media. I was like, oh my God, The Handmaid's Tale. No spoilers. Just watch it before somebody spoils it for you. And like immediately below that, one of my friends posted something that I was like, that's kind of a spoiler. You couldn't just agree with my statement. You had to throw in like your thoughts. You immediately had to come in with like oh yeah, the fact that blank. By the way, there are going to be spoilers in this recap. So if you haven't watched it yet, please do. You can come back. I'll still be here. It's the thing about YouTube. It's not going anywhere. So, once last we left off, the handmaids had rioted and taken back what was theirs, and Serena had fled her home. She opens up in this episode and sees one of the wives getting attacked in the street by a handmaid. And then, she ends up running to Lawrence's house for protection. And she has, Lawrence is saying, all right, well, come in. Of course, Lawrence isn't asleep. His wife is bitching about being really groggy, though. This is funny. She's exhausted. And she takes it upon herself, of course, to call Wharton and let him know that his wife is there so he can sweep in and try to do his self-righteousness thing again and try to offer Serena the moon when he never intends on giving it to her. So they have that moment, and then Wharton's like, well, I have to go because we have to, activate the High Council, and things are happening, and he reveals to her what he knows, which it's also around the same time, June is sort of gathered up the handmaids, and they're heading out, but they get captured. The Guardians find them, and they take all the handmaids, and they're looking specifically for June. Again, Moira is looking so desperately for, like, she's like, bitch, I've been in this battle forever. But they keep calling out June Osborne. The whole scene in episode 8 where she was like, aren't, to Lydia, like, don't you remember me? Because Lydia was looking for June, and Moira's like, am I not enough? Could I not have done this? There's a sort of a sense of that. I kind of wonder if Moira doesn't want more credit, but she sees sort of all of the stuff that June is being thrown at. Maybe she's grateful that June keeps taking all of the shit and that nobody knows who Moira is. So they get taken, and the Guardians pull out June, and they take the rest of the handmaids, including Moira, who's arguably not a handmaid, but they don't know that, along with everybody else. And the nun, not the nun, what do they call him? The aunt, sorry. I think of them as nuns. That's terrible for Catholics, I apologize. She reveals her real name, because she was going by Aunt Phoebe, and it's really Ava. We later learned that she was like a CIA agent, which is why she's so damn good at everything. But a great moment for Darcy Carden coming in here and crushing it in like this guest role. So, yeah, June is in a cell. Wharton reveals to Serena that it was June. June was the one who who had the whole thing in the cake. Also, Serena, I think, is putting into her mind that, well, Rita was the one who actually made the cake. So that means that Rita did that. So all the people that she thought were on her side, all the people that she thought, she had made amends with, she had really made amends with. And then Wharton leaves with this sort of like a little bit of an improvement in the relationship between him and Serena, with like a promise of, no handmaid, we'll try for a baby by ourselves. And she's like, well, what if we're not blessed? And he's like, well, God will show us a path, should that happen. So he's willing to table the idea of having a handmaid in the house for now, supposedly. We'll never find out, but which is great. And June ends up sort of on trial, but first Wharton goes to visit her and has this one-on-one conversation, and June is like ready. June is like studied. She's become like stronger in theology. She's got some Bible quotes for him, and he keeps talking to her like she's going to be judged, and he wanted to give her a chance to repent and all that kind of stuff, and atone for her sins. And she brings up the fact that he had all those girls murdered at Jezebel's. I kind of wanted her to bring up the fact that the existence of Jezebel's proves what she's saying about the commanders, that it's corrupt, that the commanders are inherently, that this is not the religious world, because it's something that he knows, because obviously he is sort of a religious zealot. He's not a perv. There are some men here who truly are just doing it for the exertion of power and the dominance of women. There's some part of him, which is what Serena's picking up on, that is optimistically kind and just horrifically misguided in terms of just using a complete misread of the text. There's that aspect with Wharton. But he also did have a whole bunch of girls killed in Jezebel's, and his commanders were using Jezebel's, and he was fully aware of it, to just go have sex with women who were not their wives or their handmaids. So I feel like if I could have added one thing here with June, it would have been pointing out just the existence of Jezebel's proves that that this whole thing is a sham. Because if it was really religious, if it was really about the sanctity of everything in the home and the handmaids and making babies, there wouldn't be Jezebel's. It wouldn't exist, because everybody would be so propelled, like Wharton, by their religion, that they wouldn't have Jezebel's, because Wharton doesn't need Jezebel's. Nick doesn't even go to Jezebel's for the purpose of Jezebel's anyway. So it's all about a certain type of person. Even when Lawrence goes to Jezebel's, he's just going there because the other guys go there. So that highlights the fact that Wharton has allowed a whole bunch of commanders around him who are just perverts. They're just rapists. So that's all they are. And he props them up like they're some sort of like sacred men chosen by God, but clearly they're not all that, because it conflicts with what even he believes about Gilead being, the God's chosen land, or whatever he calls it. So they have a very interesting exchange. She's kept in like a bird cage. It's described, the audio description, she's in a cage that's like elevated slightly off the ground. And they said it was, the audio description said it was like a bird cage. And I was like, that's interesting. It's like, why is she elevated? So weird. Like, what do you think she's... And ultimately, at the end of the day, she's not elevated to a point where it would kill her if she got out and fell, because Wharton gets her a chair and opens the door to the cage, and she just comes out and like steps down and sits in the chair. She doesn't like fall out of the cage. She doesn't have to get a ladder to help her down. She's not being held at some like incredibly high height that would be impossible to either get to or for her to get out of. So I just don't understand why she's off the ground at all. She's elevated at all. But so I guess there's sort of like a little bit of a Hannibal Lecter thing there too, with a cage inside of a cell. I mean, she's already in a cell that locks, and there's a cage within that. So their conversation, and then she ends on this sort of like choose love. She's like, she pulls out a Bible quote that is basically like choose love. So be who she sees in you, is what she says. Clearly doesn't get through, because we move forward to sort of like this execution sequence in front of public execution of everyone. At first, we just see June, and she's being escorted, and there's a noose. She's being escorted, but then the audio description brought up the fact that there are other nooses on like another platform behind June. Like June is on her own thing, and then like behind her are these other nooses that are set up, and we're like, who are they for? And I immediately was like, they're gonna hang all the handmaids, which is like, that's like a generation of fertileness. But at the same time, if he's in charge of everything and he's telling Serena, I don't need handmaids anymore, maybe this is his grand gesture to Serena. That's what I was thinking. I was really surprised when they put Aunt Lydia up there and blamed her simply for having inappropriately raised the handmaids. They didn't even call her out for the shit that she, like she let them go, like she had them in the thing. That's not even brought up. They put Aunt Lydia up there for being responsible, as like a responsible adult. I was like, well, you could do that with any of the aunts, honestly. Like all of the aunts should be up there then. And of course, Ava, because she's a traitor. But so yeah, all of Moira, Janine, all of the other handmaidens are up there with nooses and ready to be hung. And I was like, well, while I know we're close to the end of a series, June is not dying the episode before the finale. This isn't... The others, maybe. I did toy with the idea that somehow June could be saved, or that they hang all of the others and make June watch. So I was thinking like various ways of how this scene could play out. Except for the fact that anybody who has followed the Handmaid's Tale and sort of like the history of it being picked up or renewed, who knows about the other books, knows that Aunt Lydia is in the Testaments, which is the series that they're doing now after the Handmaid's Tale. That Anne Dowd has already been confirmed for the Testaments, and I'm like, unless it's a prequel series and she's in it, like, and it takes place, it'd be really hard to kill her off. So I kind of didn't think that scene was going to go through, but I was really interested to see how they were going to get out of it. And turns out Mayday's there. Luke and the rest of the clan, Rita's there, and they have weapons hidden, and they move through the crowd. And the minute that they start to hang June, Mayday activates. They have snipers on the roof. They're taking out, guards. Unfortunately, the big targets, they get sort of like hustled out of there. So Wharton gets taken away. So they're like, fuck, we didn't get Wharton. But they do save all of the handmaids, Lydia, Ava, and June. who was in the process of being hung but didn't die. So they're taken to a facility later on. June is exhausted but still wants to be in the fight. They're told that uh, the commanders are all going to be, that they didn't get them, and they're like, well, what, where could they be headed? We think Serena knows more than she's letting on. So June has to go have this conversation with Serena. Mark. Oh yeah, Mark is. I forgot to bring up. Mark comes back. He rescues Serena. I'm using that term lightly. He does. I mean, he goes and gets. He's not mean to Serena and Noah. Like they are taken into American custody. I don't know what they did with Lawrence's wife and child, because they're not mentioned in this. They do post somebody up at Lawrence's house in case Lawrence returns home. That doesn't say what happens to his wife and daughter. So I'm still wondering that, because obviously that's Janine's arc. She was willing to, when they were talking on the truck about how June was going to stay back, she's like, well, this is my fight, and Moira was going to stay. And because they wanted the other handmaids, they're like, it's time for you to live your life. And Janine's like, I have to stay too. Charlotte is still here. And so she's like, you're here for Hannah, I'm here for her. So she was willing to stay and fight. So in order to wrap up Janine's story, much like how we have to wrap up, Luke and June's, we have to know what happens to their kids. Like somewhere Hannah is still out there. And somewhere we have also Charlotte, who interestingly in the audio description is referred to by her Lawrence name and not by Charlotte. So I'm wondering when we're going to make that transition, or if we make that transition. It kind of makes me wonder like how that gets left out. Although considering what happens at the end of the episode, pretty certain she's going to get her kid back, and we're not going to let crazy town raise her. I think that's probably going to happen. Somebody's going to raise her and going to be, what the hell is her name? I hate her so much that Naomi. It's not going to be Naomi. So June goes and talks to Serena, and they have an awkward moment but honestly, Serena is like, no, I didn't pray for your death. And we saw she didn't. She was concerned for June, and her and Lawrence prayed for June's safety. And Serena is atoning a lot more. She hasn't come to the complete and full realization of everything. She hasn't completely owned up to like her entire part in all of this. So there's still like a little bit of a step back from, I wasn't as bad as you think I was I? There's a little bit of a hint of that, but she eventually does give up what her husband told her, Wharton, that they were flying out on this plane. So Mark's idea when Lawrence shows up, when they finally get a hold of Lawrence and he shows up, is they have a bomb. It's an altitude bomb to put on a plane. And Lawrence is like, admittedly, really, he's like, they benched me because I pitched, that we should try to make peace, and they want to make war, basically. So he doesn't want to, he's like, I can't, I'm not supposed to be going to High Council. And they're like, well, you could just go there and show up and then leave you still have access. All you have to do is leave this briefcase on board. And so he goes there ahead of everything. And here I need to pause, because there's a little thing because I'm trying to describe a narrative, which is this narrative. But in the side story, the one thing that we did see was that we cut over to Nick, who with Rose, obviously Rose ate some cake, a little bit of complications. She had a little bit of a pregnancy scare, so Nick rushed her to the hospital. But so we have that scene with Nick, and then we also have a scene later where Rose is in a hospital bed and she's weak, and she's being incredibly self-righteous, and she's like, you have to end this. You have to end her. She tried to kill our son. It was just very dramatic, very over the top. And I was like, Rose, calm yourself. And Nick, we still don't know where his head is at. in terms of everything. Because Max Minghella always plays Nick as this like silent but deadly creature. Uh, and so that's the buildup for Nick. That's a little bit of touching base with Nick that we do. And so then they pitch this idea to Lawrence, and Jude's like, well, I'll go with you. So that way you won't be alone. I'll be your getaway driver. And he's like, yeah, I don't have to go. You're finally safe, you know. And agrees to go with him. So she's there. And Lawrence gets there, and he's ahead of everybody. But just as he's about to go on board to, you know, plant the bomb and then leave, more cars show up. And suddenly Wharton and the other commanders are all there. And they're like, oh, good. Changed your mind. You've decided we need all the heads we can get on this. We got to have, it's a show of solidarity. Like Wharton's changed his mind on Lawrence's presence, I guess. I don't know. And Lawrence is like, fuck. And you can tell there's something about Bradley Whitford's performance, the audio description that captures it like perfectly. It's the realization of it's not going to be me. You know, he's done all of this work to try to end all of the other commanders of Gilead with the idea that if he took it over, that he could fix it and make peace and turn everything to like New Bethlehem and fix what he created. You know, ultimately though, in order to fix it, he's gonna have to die. So Lawrence ends up getting on the plane. He has no real good reason to ever get off. He can't really say, oh, hold on, never mind, and then just leave this briefcase behind. So he knows full well, he gives June a little look, and she's crushed because she knows that he knows, and she knows what this all means when he gets on that plane and isn't able to get off. And there's nothing she can do about it because they did, like, all the commanders are on this plane. This is exactly what they were trying to do the whole time, was wipe out all the commanders. Unfortunately, Lawrence is there. And this is a moment that's big enough in and of itself. This oh fuck of a moment reminded me of, I bring up Walking Dead a lot as a huge fan. It brings me back to that scene where it was like Abraham and then Glenn, or also the Heads on the Pikes, when you're going down the Heads of the Pikes, and there were some characters in there that didn't matter. But then you started seeing the characters that did, and you're like, oh shit, oh my god. You know, and you're like, oh, you had to kill all those people? Really? I like those people. You know, I mean, there were people that were there were a couple of regulars that were on the pike at the same time. But definitely, I thought Abraham's death was enough when he died. That was my disagreement in Walking Dead. So I didn't need more than that. But here, I kind of agree. This one worked for me because while Lawrence, there was something that was just so poetic about what we had just seen with Nick. So Nick pulls up and Nick goes over to the plane, and Wharton, you know, embraces him and is like, oh, my son-in-law, future high commander, you know, like he's so proud that Nick is there. And Nick gets on the plane and Lawrence is just looking at him like, Nick's like, oh, you know, why are you here? He's like, oh, you know, self-preservation. And I can't remember what Nick said, but he's like, maybe you shouldn't be. Like, Lawrence is like, maybe you shouldn't have had that thought or that whatever revelation that brought you here. Yeah, June watches Nick get on the plane. And again, I think this is the point where the audience is just sitting there going like, is she going to do something? Is she going to say something? Is she going to stand in front of the plane? Is she going to stop for Nick? No, she doesn't. She lets the plane go. She watches it go into the air, and that shit blows up with both Lawrence and Nick on board. And that's how the episode ends. It's phenomenal. It was a great hour of television, and I loved it. And I'm so happy to be here to talk about just like the end of Nick and Lawrence. I've been talking about this whole time. I was like, who's not going to make it? This is, you know, when you're headed towards a series finale, not everybody gets to make it to the other side. And I think with with these characters, they weren't originally on the list of, like, I thought maybe one of them could die, and possibly, but I was kind of looking at, there's this Luke and Moira thing that I feel like they've both kind of been barreling towards the, one of them is totally willing to be martyred for this cause, and they still could be in the next episode. One of them could absolutely be uh, decide to die for this fight, but they were sort of on my radar more than anything else. And also, I wasn't sure that Serena would get a happy ending. Is the series really going to let Serena have a life? So those were sort of more on my radar than anything else. Nick was sort of not really on my radar until he became the bad guy. It's like, I could kill off Nick. And Lawrence, I kind of thought maybe he would get, maybe his good guy act would actually pay off. You know, but it's all kind of like, it works if we work our way out. Like, I'm happy with this as long as it doesn't lead to, what the fuck is her name? Raising that girl. I hate her as a character. Naomi. God, I always remember her name too late. Naomi. Naomi doesn't get to raise a child. I'm sorry. It's not happening. Poor Charlotte needs to, as long as Charlotte goes back, because Lawrence was doing such a good job of making sure that Charlotte had a future that was bright and educated and warm and loving and caring, and Naomi is just not any of those things. And like, even the moment when Lawrence like trusts her to like read, I felt like he was like pulling it out of her. So we got to get her back to Janine ASAP Rocky. So but yeah, I love this episode. I think it's my favorite episode of the season. I really liked last week's episode too. There were so many great performances here. I thought the standouts were all over the place. I mean, there's so many standouts, I don't even know how to pick one. I don't know who's for your consideration this would be. I feel like for Bradley Whitford, he has moments where he gets to look, and the realization that he's walking into death, like he's making that choice because he knows at the end of the day that he created all this. He's still the architect. And the only way that the architect can ever truly bring it down is by blowing it all up. So he makes that choice. Honestly, Wharton's great. June's great. Lydia's like 5 minutes. Man, they give her a speech. They give her an opportunity to like atone for her sins or something like that. And she prays. But then she turns it on them. And man, Ann Dowd is one of the best actresses we have. We are so underutilizing her in terms of the roles that she gets offered. There's an actress, she should have been nominated for Mass a couple of years ago for an Oscar. I still hope she gets one someday. So lots of great performances. I thought the audio description was fantastic. I have nothing but praise for this episode. So I'm giving Handmaid's Tale season 6 episode 9 an A+. I was blown away. I was floored. I was just like, I like stopped in my tracks, just like jaw open, just like, why? I was like, oh my God. The last like 5 minutes just had me going like, what is happening? Are we really doing this? Is this really happening? It's really happening. And then the Nick thing, I was like, oh shit. So rest in peace, Nick and Lawrence. And yeah. So we'll see what happens next episode. Until then, thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.